There's a student somewhere right now, studying. Textbooks open, highlighters out, notes spread across the desk. They've been at it for 3 hours, and tomorrow morning, during the exam, they will remember almost nothing. This isn't a story about laziness. It isn't a story about intelligence. It's a story about a system that was never designed to help you learn. And the scariest part? The harder you try inside that system, the more damage it does. In 1978, a psychologist named Robert Bjork introduced a concept that most schools still haven't heard of. He called it desirable difficulty. The idea was simple, but it overturned almost everything education was built on. Bjork discovered that the activities that feel like learning, rereading, highlighting, reviewing, are almost entirely useless for memory. They create what he called the illusion of knowing. You feel like the information is going in, but your brain isn't storing it. It's just processing it and immediately letting it go. Think about the last time you read the same paragraph 3 times and still couldn't explain it. That wasn't a failure of effort. That was your brain doing exactly what you trained it to do. When you expose your brain to the same information in the same format repeatedly, it stops tagging that information as important. It reduces the neural signal. In neuroscience, this process is called habituation. Your brain essentially learns this information requires no action. Ignore it. Here's where it gets darker. The study habits most students use weren't accidentally ineffective. They were deliberately designed for a different purpose entirely. In the 19th century, Prussia developed the modern school model. Its goal wasn't learning. Its goal was compliance. Sit still, follow instructions, repeat what you're told. The habits that came out of that system, passive review, surface repetition, weren't built to create memory. They were built to create obedience. And that system, with very few changes, is what most of the world still uses today. So when a student sits down and rereads their notes for 2 hours, they aren't failing. They're succeeding at exactly what the system designed them to do. Sit, comply, repeat. Just not learn. So what does real memory look like? In the 1880s, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus sat alone in a room and memorized thousands of nonsense syllables. He tested himself, forgot, retested, tracked every curve. What he found became one of the most important and most ignored discoveries in education. He called it the forgetting curve. Within 24 hours of learning something new, your brain discards up to 70% of it. Within a week, up to 90% is gone. Not because you're careless, because your brain is ruthlessly efficient. It keeps what it uses and quietly deletes everything else. But Ebbinghaus also discovered the antidote. He called it spaced repetition. Each time you retrieve a memory, at a slightly longer interval, the brain treats it as more valuable. It strengthens the neural pathway. It says, this information has been called upon before. Keep it. The memory doesn't get stronger when you put it in. It gets stronger each time you pull it out. This is where most students get it backwards. When you test yourself and get the answer wrong, it feels like failure. But neurologically, that moment of struggle is when the deepest encoding happens. Researchers at UCLA studied 2 groups of students. Group 1 reread their notes before an exam. Group 2 put their notes away and tested themselves from memory. Group 2 scored significantly higher, not because they studied more, because they struggled more. The brain has a simple rule. What requires effort to retrieve gets stored deeper. What comes easily gets treated as disposable. This is called the testing effect, or retrieval practice. and it's one of the most well-replicated findings in cognitive psychology, yet almost no school teaches it. Here is the silent war. Every time a student picks up a highlighter, their brain relaxes. Every time a student closes the book and forces themselves to recall, their brain works. One of these feels productive. One of these is productive. They are not the same thing. The most dangerous study habit isn't procrastination. It's the comfortable feeling of being busy without actually learning. Psychologists call this productive procrastination. You're doing something, you're moving, the pages are turning, but the war inside your brain, the one that builds real memory, never begins. The students who eventually break through, they all describe the same shift. At some point, they stopped trying to feel like they were studying and started tolerating the discomfort of not knowing, long enough for their brain to fight for the answer. The brain doesn't respect effort. It respects demand. What you demand of it, repeatedly, at intervals, with friction, it keeps. What you merely expose it to, it quietly, efficiently, politely forgets. The students who learn how to learn aren't smarter. They just stopped fighting their brain and started working with it. Close the notes. Ask yourself what you know. Sit with not knowing. Then try again. That silence, that uncomfortable pause before you remember, that's not failure. That's your brain building something permanent. The war inside your brain isn't against the material. It's against the habit of comfort.
There's a pattern among students who quietly outperform everyone around them. They don't study longer, they don't have better teachers, they don't come from better schools. What they have is a different relationship with discomfort. A student in South Korea named Ji-yeon failed her university entrance exam twice. Not because she wasn't working, she was studying 12 hours a day. Highlighters, notes, rereading, review sheets, everything the system told her to do. On her third attempt, she changed one thing. She stopped reviewing what she already knew and started spending every session on what she couldn't remember. She passed, top percentile. When she was asked what changed, she said something quietly devastating. She said, "I stopped trying to feel prepared and started trying to feel confused on purpose." That one shift from comfort to deliberate struggle is the difference most students never find. And it isn't about intelligence, it isn't about discipline, it's about understanding what your brain actually responds to. Because your brain doesn't reward the hours you put in, it rewards the specific moments when you didn't know something and fought until you did. Your brain has one job that overrides everything else: survival. And survival for 200,000 years meant one thing: pay attention to what changes, ignore what stays the same. This is why your brain stops encoding repeated information. It isn't a flaw, it's a feature, a deeply efficient, ancient feature that modern education accidentally weaponized against you. When you sit down and reread the same notes, your brain sees no change, no threat, no novelty, no demand. It files the experience under safe, familiar, unnecessary, and moves on. But when you close the book and try to recall something, everything changes. Your brain detects a gap, a missing piece, and gaps in survival terms are dangerous. So it mobilizes, it searches, it builds new pathways to bridge the distance between what you know and what you need. That search, that reaching, is called active recall, and it triggers a neurochemical response that passive review never does. Dopamine, norepinephrine, cortisol in small doses. The brain's way of saying, "This moment matters, record it." This is why students who test themselves before they feel ready actually remember more. Not because they're smarter, because they're triggering the exact biological process your brain was built for. The method isn't new. Your brain has always known how to learn. School just never asked it to. Here is something nobody talks about. For many students, the real barrier to learning isn't method, it's identity. From the moment children enter school, they are sorted, smart, average, struggling, fast, slow, behind. And somewhere along the way, most students absorb a story about who they are. The student who gets A's starts to believe they are smart, and that belief, quietly, invisibly, becomes a trap. Because smart people aren't supposed to struggle. Smart people aren't supposed to not know the answer. Smart people aren't supposed to sit with confusion for 20 minutes and come up with nothing. So when the material gets hard, and it always gets hard, these students do something deeply irrational. They retreat to what they already know. They reread the chapters they've already read. They review the notes they already understand. Not because it helps, because it feels safe, because it confirms the story, I am someone who knows things. Psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying this. She called it the fixed mindset, the belief that intelligence is something you have, not something you build. And she found something remarkable. Students who believed intelligence was fixed avoided challenge. They chose easier problems, quit earlier, recovered slower from failure. Not because they were less capable, because they were protecting an identity. The students who grew, the ones who kept pushing past confusion, believed something different. They believed the struggle was the process, that not knowing wasn't a sign of weakness, it was the beginning of knowing. And that single belief, more than any study technique, determined who eventually learned and who quietly stopped trying. There is a kind of student you rarely hear about. They don't get the highest grades in class. They don't finish first. They don't raise their hand before they're sure. But 5 years later, 10 years later, they are the ones who remember. The ones who can explain something from a decade ago with precision and clarity. The ones who kept building long after the exam was over. They are the quiet ones. And the thing that separates them isn't talent. It isn't discipline in the traditional sense. It's a tolerance for the uncomfortable space between not knowing and knowing. They learned, somehow, somewhere, that the confusion is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that learning is actually happening. Most students spend their entire academic life trying to eliminate that feeling, filling every silence with rereading, covering every gap with highlighting, avoiding the moment when they have to sit with, I don't know yet. The quiet ones do the opposite. They sit in it, they stay, they let the discomfort do its work, and their brains, in response, build something that no amount of passive review ever could. Permanent memory, real understanding, knowledge that doesn't disappear the morning after the exam. This isn't a story about studying harder. It was never about that. It's a story about learning to trust the process your brain was always designed for. Close the notes. Ask yourself what you know. Stay in the silence. Let your brain fight for it. That discomfort you're trying to avoid, that is the learning. Quiet progress. That's always how it works.